Good morning, Pankhurst, and welcome to your third Talk for Writing lesson this week. So this week so far, we've looked at our new text map. You were introduced to your new vocabulary for this unit, and then you were also introduced to your new class key text. So today our learning objective is, can I use adverbials of time and time connectives? So we've done a lot of work on adverbials and time connectives this term anyway. So what we will do is draw upon our knowledge from that and then use that and our new skills to improve our writing. So with your thinking caps on, can you have a good think and try and remember what are adverbials of time or time connectives, okay? And when you pause the video, think about it and then discuss it with your adult or your sibling or your teddy, anyone around you, and then come back to my video when you are ready. Okay, fantastic. So they are words or phrases which are used to tell the reader when, how long, and how often something is happening. Yeah, so when something is happening, how long it is happening for, and how often it is happening. Okay, now when something happens, yeah, so now these are some examples of when something has happened or when something happens. I saw Mary yesterday. So that is when I saw Mary. So that is when that happened. She was born in 1978. So that is when she was born. I will see you later. So now this is an example of when I will see you. There was a storm during the night. Now this is an example of when there was the storm. Okay, so these are examples of when these events had happened. Okay, now how long for? Now these are examples of how long something had happened. So we waited all day. So now that is an example of how long we had waited. They have lived here since 2004. So now this is an example of how long they have lived in their home. We will be on holiday from 1st of July until 3rd of August. Now this is an example of how long we will be on holiday for. Okay, so now if you look at these, for example, these are giving examples of how long an event or something is going to take or how long it happened for. Okay, now these are examples of how often, which means frequency, which means how often do they happen. So, do they happen regularly? Do they happen sometimes? Do they happen all the time? Yeah, so now they usually watched television in the evening. So they usually, which means that's how often they watched it. It was usually, so you can tell that it happened quite often. Okay, it says here, we sometimes went to work by car. So this shows that how often it happened. So they didn't always go by car, they sometimes went by car. Okay, so now over here I've got your word map. And this is a word map giving you examples of adverbials of time and time connectives, okay? Now, you've got after, afternoon, before, during, earlier, evening, eventually, finally, first, and lastly. So these are some examples. Then you have later, meanwhile, morning, next, suddenly, then, when, while, yesterday. After that, as soon as possible, at that point, at the end, in the beginning, in the end, just at that moment, just then, several hours, days, months later, without warning. These words can go at the start of a sentence and are called fronted adverbials of time. Okay, so for example, these are the words that will go at the start of a sentence. Okay, so yesterday I went to school. Tomorrow I want to go to the cinema. And I want you to notice how there has been a comma used here. Yeah, so if you notice the comma has been used after the fronted adverbial, and this is something that we've learnt this year anyway many times. Yeah, so once you have used your once you have written your fronted adverbial, you would use a comma after it. Okay, they must always be followed by a comma, just like I told you now. Yeah, so the following words can also be used in the middle or end of a sentence. So for example, I ate banana pancakes for breakfast, then I left for school. So this time connective is used in the middle of a sentence as well. Okay, and if you notice, they don't always have a comma before or after it. I am going to see my friends later. Have you noticed how this has been used at the end of the sentence and that in the middle? Yeah. Now, can you spot the adverbials of time and time connectives below? Note them on a piece of paper or on your mini whiteboard. Pause the video now and complete this activity for me. Okay, so now I am going to show you where there are adverbials of time and time connective. So I have early on one day, we got onto the coach and made our way to London. The journey was really fun. The coach driver put some music on and we all sang along while looking at all the sights. An hour later, we arrived at the museum. Yeah, so these are the ones you should have noticed. Now, what about this one? Note the time words down now. So if you pause the video, have a good read, okay? You do not need to copy the whole paragraph down. You just need to write down the words that you have noticed, okay? Pause the screen now and complete this activity. So now you should have found and listed all the adverbials of time and time connectives, and I'm going to show you where they are now. So, and then check it against the list you have. So we have last Tuesday. So this is when, okay? Then you have early, yeah? So I got up early, so it's like the time of the day. Then you've got a few hours later, yeah? I was on my way to Dublin, which is in Ireland, one evening. We went to a lovely restaurant and I felt so excited to see some Irish dancers and a wonderful band. Later on, yeah, in the holidays, I went to London with my best friend. First, we went shopping, then we went to the theatre to see a wonderful, interesting play. I felt excited, but also very tired on the way home. On the way, oops, oops. On the way, I had a brilliant holiday. Okay, so now these are the examples you should have seen here. So now these are your activities. Remember, choose the activity which is appropriate for you. And then you just pause the screen on the activity that you're going to be completing. So activity 1 is underline the adverbial of time and time connectives in the sentences below. Okay, so for example, sentence 1 says, suddenly Tallulah jumped out of her seat. So the the adverbial of time or the time connective here would be suddenly. Okay, and then so forth. You do it with the rest. Yeah, pause the screen here if you will be doing activity 1. Now, if you were doing activity 2, your task is to use our word mat, which will be on the next page, to fill in the blanks with an adverbial of time or time connective that makes sense. Okay, so you have sentences here with gaps in them, and you need to complete these sentences using the correct adverbial of time or time connective. Okay, so if you're doing activity 2, you can pause here and then your word mat is here. Okay, so you use this word mat to help you, so you can pause it here as well. I would say if you're doing activity 2, write out the sentence. So leave the gap and write out the sentence, then pause the screen on activity on this page and use the correct word to complete your sentence. Then activity 3 is use the word map below to write your own paragraph about what you did over the weekend using adverbials of time and time connectives. Okay, so for example, I'm going to model it for you here. I'm just going to make this word map small for a second so that I can just show you what I'm expecting. Okay, so I can start with yesterday. Oops, yesterday. I'm not going to write the whole paragraph. I'm just going to start you off. Yesterday, oh, it says weekend, doesn't it? Okay, so on the weekend, I went to the shops whilst my children had a nap. I went early in the morning. I went early in the morning to do my grocery shopping because I knew during lunchtime, correct, during wrong, during lunchtime, the shops would have been busy, noisy, and overcrowded. Okay, then I can write down on the way to the shops, the roads seemed very dangerous to drive on because all weekend it had been snowing. Yeah, so something like this, and you can see that I've used some time connectives and fronted adverbials. I'm just going to show you where. Obviously, you're going to be using your own, writing your own sentence. So on the weekend, I went to the shops whilst my children had a nap. I went early in the morning to do my grocery shopping because I know during lunchtime the shops would have been busy, noisy, and overcrowded. On the way to the shops, the roads seemed very dangerous to drive on because all weekend, so that's when on the weekend it had been snowing. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make this word map bigger again, and I'm going to just move my paragraph down, and that's it. So choose the correct activity for you and pause the screen on that activity. Okay, so for you to complete your task, and I will look forward to seeing your work uploaded on Tapestry. Well done, Pankhurst. See you in your next video.